My stepdaughter's lie ruined my reputation, my marriage and my peace. Now I'm reclaiming my life and making them face the consequences of their betrayal. Here's a little background to set the stage. I've been married for 5 years, second marriage. I thought I finally got it right this time. Things weren't perfect, but whose marriage is? She had a teenage daughter when we met, 19 now, and while I wouldn't call our relationship warm and fuzzy, it was fine. I wasn't trying to be her dad or anything, just someone she could rely on if she needed help. It worked for me. Now, let me tell you about what I thought was going to be a completely normal Thursday night, one of those nights where nothing really happens, and that's exactly how you like it. We were on the couch watching a movie. Can't even tell you what it was because I'm too traumatized to remember. About halfway through, I got up to use the bathroom. No big deal, right? Here's the thing about our bathroom situation. It's a mess right now. The master bathroom in our bedroom is under construction. Tiles ripped out, pipes exposed, the works. That leaves the hallway bathroom as the only usable one in the house. Everyone uses it, it's just part of life until the renovations are done. So, I head down the hallway, and like any civilized person, I knock on the bathroom door, not just once, but twice. I'm not talking about some dainty little taps either. I knocked loud enough that anyone inside should have heard it. I wait a couple of seconds, don't hear a peep, so I figure the bathroom's empty. I open the door, and that's when my life flipped upside down. Standing there in front of me is my stepdaughter, completely naked. I froze. My brain just shut down, like someone hit the reset button. Before I could even process what I was seeing, she started screaming, and I don't mean a little startled yelp, I mean full-on blood-curdling screaming. You'd think I was some stranger who had broken into the house. My fight or flight instincts kicked in, and I chose the most awkward third option, stumbling backward like a drunk penguin. In my panic, I tripped over my own feet, nearly face planted into the wall, and somehow managed to grab the door and slam it shut behind me. Now I'm standing in the hallway. At this point, I'm sweating bullets. She's still screaming, and I'm thinking, great, I'm about to become the bad guy in a story I didn't even write. I tried to explain myself, but it's hard to get a word in when someone's yelling loud enough to wake the neighbors. I knocked. I swear I knocked. I'm practically shouting at this point, hoping she'll calm down enough to hear me. You did not knock. She yells back, her voice muffled through the door. At this point, I'm standing there like a deer in headlights, thinking, this is bad. This is really bad. Before I could do anything else, my wife came rushing down the hallway like a storm, her face a mix of confusion and panic. What's going on? She demanded, her eyes darting between me and the closed bathroom door. Before I could explain, my stepdaughter shouted from inside, he just walked in on me. That was enough to make her turn to me with this look, half disbelief, half accusation. What happened? She asked, her voice sharp, like she was already bracing for the worst. I tried to explain, stumbling over my words. I knocked. I swear I knocked, but nobody answered. She didn't say anything at first, just stared at me like she couldn't decide whether to believe me or not. That silence hit harder than anything she could have said. Eventually, things calmed down enough for all of us to sit in the living room and talk it out. My stepdaughter finally stopped yelling long enough to tell her side of the story, which honestly wasn't much of a story at all. She admitted she didn't hear me knock because she was wearing her AirPods and blasting music while she was getting ready. Cue the awkward silence. So now the pieces are falling into place. I knocked, she didn't hear me because of her AirPods, I walked in, she freaked out, and now here we are. I apologized about 1,000 times, telling her I never would have opened the door if I'd known she was in there. She said she believed me, but you could tell she was still embarrassed, understandably. After some more talking, she actually apologized to me for yelling. She said she'd just been caught off guard and didn't know how to react. At that point, I felt like we'd smoothed things over. To my surprise, she even gave me a hug and apologized for overreacting. I remember sitting there feeling this huge wave of relief. It was awkward, sure, but I thought it was over, like we could all just move on from this and pretend it never happened. Little did I know, this was just the beginning. I honestly thought the worst was behind me. That was wishful thinking, apparently, because 2 days later, everything started to unravel. I started noticing my wife was on her phone more than usual, her face buried in it like she was trying to solve a mystery. She'd frown, type furiously, then sigh like she was exhausted. I didn't think much of it at first, maybe she was dealing with work stuff, or maybe her sister was being dramatic about something unrelated. That happens sometimes. Then, during dinner, I overheard her on a phone call with her sister. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but her tone was sharp, like she was defending something, or someone. No, that's not what happened, she said, and I could hear her pacing in the hallway. You're taking this way too far. It seemed that there was a serious issue, so I quietly moved closer. That's when I caught the word creep. No, he's not a creep, she said, her voice louder now. You don't even know the whole story. I froze. I felt like the walls around me were closing in. What the hell was going on? After she hung up, I asked her who she was talking to. She hesitated for a second, just long enough for me to know it wasn't good. My sister, she finally said. There's been some confusion. Confusion about what? I asked, even though I already had a sinking feeling. She sighed and explained that her sister called because she'd heard from her daughter, my stepdaughter's cousin, that I had walked in on her in the bathroom on purpose. Not only that, but my stepdaughter had apparently said that I ignored her telling me not to come in. It felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. What? I said, my voice louder than I intended. She said that, apparently, she said, looking exhausted. But it's not true. I know it's not true. That should have been comforting, but it wasn't. The idea that someone in her family thought I was capable of something like that made me feel sick. My wife knew me very well. I wasn't the type to do these things. So she tried to calm me down, saying it was just a misunderstanding and that she'd straighten it out. We have the hallway camera, she said. It'll prove you knocked before going in. So we pulled up the footage. Sure enough, there I was, knocking twice before opening the door. There's no audio, but it's clear that I waited a moment before stepping inside. She confronted her daughter about what she'd said. I wasn't in the room for that conversation, but I could hear bits and pieces from the kitchen. It sounded tense, like neither of them wanted to back down. Later, my wife told me that her daughter admitted she'd exaggerated the story while joking around and creating fake scenarios with her cousin. Apparently, it wasn't meant to be taken seriously, and she didn't think it would get out of hand. When I pressed my wife for more details, of why the hell she would do that, she told me something that made my blood boil. She said she felt like no one was paying attention to her lately. My wife admitted quietly, it wasn't about you specifically. She was just trying to make her cousin laugh and didn't think this would get out. Hearing that didn't make it any easier to forgive. Trying to get attention or a cheap laugh, that's the excuse for spreading a lie that could ruin someone's life? It felt like the kind of selfish, immature reasoning you'd expect from a little kid, not a 19-year-old who should understand the weight of her words. Knowing her motivation didn't make it better, it just made it worse. I was furious. She didn't think it would get out of hand? She told someone I walked in on her on purpose. How does that not get out of hand? It's not like she's a child, she understands very well what that may cause. I know, my wife said, trying to keep me calm. I told her she needs to fix this. She needs to tell everyone the truth. But when my wife pressed her, she refused. It's not my fault the story spread, she said, according to my wife. People know him, it'll blow over. That statement hit me like a brick. People know me? What the hell does that even mean? That everyone would just magically assume I'm innocent because I'm a nice guy? That's not how the world works. And just like that, the story spread. It was out of control before I could even catch my breath, with whispers, texts, and calls all painting me as some kind of predator. The next few days were hell. I couldn't stop thinking about what people might be saying behind my back. Every time my phone buzzed with a text or a call, my chest tightened. What if it was one of her family members coming at me with accusations? What if it was my boss? It wasn't just paranoia, either. My wife started getting messages from her family asking why she was protecting me. Protecting me from what? From a lie? One of her uncles, someone I'd helped move into a new apartment just a few months ago, texted her saying, I always knew there was something off about him. That one hurt the most. I'd been nothing but kind to these people, and now they were ready to throw me under the bus based on a story that wasn't even true. I tried to keep my head down and focus on work, but I couldn't concentrate. Every time I walked into a room, I felt like people were looking at me differently, even though I knew that was impossible. My wife kept reassuring me, saying she was handling it, but her tone felt more like someone trying to convince themselves. The worst part? She still didn't seem to understand just how bad this could get. I told her, this isn't just going to blow over. Rumors like this stick, they'll ruin me. I know, she said. I'm working on it. But I didn't feel like she really got it. Maybe it's because she wasn't the one being accused. She didn't know what it felt like to have people you thought you could trust suddenly turn on you. She didn't know the constant anxiety of wondering if this was going to follow you for the rest of your life. I kept thinking of that moment in the living room when my stepdaughter hugged me and apologized. I actually believed her. I thought she meant it. But now I couldn't help but wonder, was she really sorry, or was she just saying whatever she needed to say to keep the peace? I don't feel like myself anymore. Every time I look in the mirror, I don't see the same person. I see someone who is being judged, someone whose life could be destroyed with one wrong word. So now I'm here, throwing this out to strangers on the internet because I honestly don't know what else to do. How do I even begin to fix this? How do you undo something like this when the damage is already out there? My wife says she's on my side, but it still feels like she's torn between me and her daughter. I've spent years building my life, my reputation, and now it's all crumbling because of something I didn't even do. If you've got any advice on how to stop this, I'm all ears. I just want to feel like myself again. I thought the worst of this mess was behind me after everything with the bathroom incident and the lies that followed, but it got worse. If you've read my last post, you know I was already feeling like I couldn't trust anyone. My wife was trying to fix things, but let's be real, there's no unringing this bell. Her daughter still refused to clear the air publicly, and the rumors were spreading like wildfire. I was clinging to the hope that maybe, just maybe, people would figure out the truth on their own. Turns out, I was giving humanity way too much credit. Let's fast forward to a few days ago. I was at work, trying, and failing, to focus, when my boss called me into his office. I thought it was about a project deadline I'd missed. Stress from all this drama has made it impossible to concentrate, but no, it was much worse. "Hey," my boss said, looking uncomfortable as he gestured for me to sit. "We got a call earlier, and I think we need to talk." Apparently, someone from my wife's family decided it would be a great idea to call my workplace. They told HR I had been inappropriate toward my stepdaughter and suggested they look into it. Hearing that was like getting punched in the face by Mike Tyson. I felt my stomach drop as I tried to process what he was saying. I could barely get out a response. "Wait, what? Who would even?" My boss held up a hand to cut me off. "Look, we're not making any decisions. This is just an FYI, but you should know we'll need to document this in case it becomes a bigger issue." A bigger issue. Just hearing those words made my blood run cold. I left his office in a daze, barely keeping it together as I walked back to my desk. I didn't even make it an hour before I packed up and told my team I was leaving for the day. When I got home, I told my wife what happened, and she looked horrified. "They called your job? Who would even do that?" "Gee, I don't know, maybe the same people calling me a creep and a predator behind my back. It doesn't take Sherlock Holmes to connect the dots." She promised to talk to her family and make it clear they'd gone too far. At this point, though, her words felt empty. I was done relying on anyone else to clean up the mess her daughter had created. That night, I decided I needed to leave for a while. I packed a bag, not out of anger, but because staying in the house didn't feel right anymore. It's my house, but at that moment, it felt like everything inside it was weighing me down. I couldn't think straight with all the tension, the accusations, and the lies hanging over me. I sat my wife down in the living room and told her I needed to leave for a while. Her reaction, full-on panic. "You don't have to leave. We can figure this out," she said, practically begging. I shook my head. "I can't do this anymore. I feel like a stranger in my own life. I need space." She started crying, saying she didn't want to lose me and that she'd do whatever it took to make things right. I didn't have the energy to argue or comfort her. I just told her I needed time to think and left. Now I'm back at my parents' house, trying to figure out my next move. The worst part of all this is how much my perspective has shifted. Before this, I trusted my wife completely. I thought she had my back no matter what. But now, I'm not so sure. She's been supportive on the surface, sure, but she hasn't cut off her family, even after they dragged my name through the mud, and her daughter is still living under the same roof, refusing to fix the mess she caused. Every time I think about her saying, "People know you, it'll blow over," I feel like I'm going to explode. But the thing is, I was stunned when my wife started bringing up financial stuff. At first, it was subtle. She'd say things like, "I know things are hard right now, but we still have bills to pay." Then it escalated. She started talking about the house, the one I've owned outright since before we got married. "What happens if we can't get through this?" she asked one night over the phone. "Would you let me stay in the house, at least until I figure things out?" I was stunned. I told her I didn't want to talk about divorce or splitting assets because, at the time, I wasn't sure if I was ready to go there yet, but the fact that she was even thinking about it while I was still reeling from everything? That stung. To make things worse, she started dropping hints about counseling, not for her daughter, but for me. "Maybe talking to someone would help you sort through all these emotions," she suggested. It felt like she was saying the problem isn't the lies, it's your reaction to them. I tried explaining how deep this cut. "It's not just the lies," I told her. "It's the fact that your family was so quick to believe them, that they're still attacking me, that you're still trying to play mediator instead of shutting this down." She promised she'd handle it, but at this point, I don't even know what that means. Is she actually going to stand up for me, or is she just trying to keep the peace? So now I'm sitting here, staring at my suitcase and wondering what the hell I'm supposed to do next. Part of me wants to call her and tell her I'll come back, that we'll figure this out together, but another part of me wonders if there's even anything left to salvage. How do you go back to a life where you're constantly looking over your shoulder, wondering if the people closest to you are going to turn on you again? How do you trust someone who couldn't protect you when it mattered most? I keep thinking about one thing: is this something I can forgive, or is it time to cut my losses and move on? I don't know the answer yet, but I feel like I need to decide soon. I wish I had better news, but things have taken an even sharper turn downhill. I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I'm at a point where I don't even recognize the life I'm living anymore. After spending a week at my parents' house, I decided I needed to go back to talk things out. Staying away gave me some clarity, but it didn't fix the situation. If anything, it made me realize just how deeply everything had affected me. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, and every time I thought about going back, my chest tightened. Still, I told myself I had to face this one way or another. When I got home, the house felt different, like walking into a place I used to know, but now it felt cold and uninviting. My wife was sitting in the living room, waiting for me. She looked relieved to see me, but I could tell from the look on her face that she knew this wasn't just a casual visit. We sat down, and I told her everything I'd been holding in. I told her how I couldn't live in the house anymore, not with her daughter still there, not with the weight of everything that had happened hanging over me. I told her I'd reached a point where I didn't think I could move past this. Her initial reaction was exactly what I expected: shock, panic, and a flood of promises. She begged me to reconsider, saying she'd do whatever it took to make things right. "I'll ask her to move out," she said, her voice trembling. "I'll cut off my family if that's what you need. Just don't give up on us." Hearing her say that should have meant something, but instead, it felt hollow. If those things were really on the table, why hadn't she done them already? Why did it take me reaching this breaking point for her to offer? "I don't think it's that simple," I told her, keeping my voice calm but firm. "Even if she's not here, the damage is already done. Your family thinks I'm a monster, and that's not going to change. They've already spread their version of events, and no matter what happens now, that's what people will believe." I paused, looking her in the eyes. "I've thought about this a lot, and I can't keep living like this. I'm filing for divorce. This isn't a decision I'm making lightly, but I need to protect myself and move on from all of this." Her face fell, and she started to say something, but I held up a hand. "This isn't about punishing you, it's about the reality we're in now. I can't stay in a situation where my character is constantly questioned and my life feels like it's in pieces. I need to move forward, even if it means doing it alone." That's when the conversation took a turn I didn't see coming. She stopped pleading and started pivoting. Suddenly, it wasn't about fixing things or saving the marriage, it was about logistics. "Well, what happens to the house?" she asked, her voice steadier now. "I mean, you've owned it since before we got married, but would you let me stay here, at least until I figure things out?" I stared at her, feeling like I'd just been slapped. I was sitting there pouring my heart out about how broken I felt, and she was already thinking about where she was going to live. "I don't know," I said honestly. "I haven't thought that far ahead yet. I just know you can't stay here." Her next question hit even harder: "Would you at least help with expenses until I get back on my feet?" I didn't know how to respond. On one hand, I understood where she was coming from. Our finances had been intertwined for years, but on the other hand, it felt like she was jumping straight to money instead of addressing what had brought us to this point. "This isn't about money," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "It's about everything else that's happened. I feel like I've lost everything I worked for, and I'm not sure how to get any of it back." But she didn't stop. She started listing all the reasons she needed support, talking about bills, groceries, even her daughter's future. The whole time, I sat there thinking, is this really what we've come to? The final blow came when she suggested abandoning her daughter altogether. "What if we send her to live with my parents?" she asked. "We could move away, start fresh somewhere else, just the two of us." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You'd send her away like she doesn't matter?" I asked. "How would you even live with yourself after that?" She looked at me, desperate. "If it's the only way to save our marriage, then yes, I'll do it." That's when I knew, even if she was willing to make these sacrifices, they weren't coming from the right place. They weren't about fixing what was broken, they were about holding on to something that was already gone. "I can't see you the same way after that," I told her, my voice softer now. "If you abandoned her, even for me, it would change the way I see you. It would change the way I see myself." She started crying again, saying she didn't know what else to do. But the truth was, I didn't have an answer for her. I didn't know what else to do either. After hours of going in circles, we were no closer to a solution. Before leaving, I told her I'd give them 1 month to get ready to leave the house. I made it clear I couldn't handle the constant pressure from her family anymore, the messages, the accusations, the judgment. It was too much. "I'll cover the last tuition payment for your daughter," I said, keeping my voice steady. "But after that, you're both on your own. I've given everything I can, and I'm done being dragged into this mess. I need space, and I don't want you to contact me during that month. Use the time to figure out your next steps, because I won't be here to hold everything together anymore." She looked like she wanted to argue, but I wasn't going to budge. I was exhausted, and this was my line in the sand. As I left the house that night, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Part of me wanted to believe there was still a way to fix this, but the bigger part of me knew the damage was too deep. Now I'm back at my parents' house, trying to work up the courage to take the next step. I haven't told her yet, but I made my decision. I'll keep you guys posted. Hey again, so I served my now ex-wife the divorce papers a few days ago, and if I thought things were bad before, I clearly underestimated just how messy this could get. Right after she got the papers, she started blowing up my phone, dozens of texts and calls every single day, all saying the same things over and over. "We can move away. I'll cut off everyone for you. I'll do whatever it takes to fix this." On the surface, it sounded like she was trying, but honestly, it felt hollow. She was saying the right things, but her actions didn't match her words. It wasn't just the messages. She showed up at my parents' house uninvited, multiple times. The first time, she stood at the door crying, begging me to let her in so we could talk. I told her it wasn't a good idea and asked her to leave, but she refused. My mom eventually stepped in, politely but firmly telling her it wasn't the time or place. I thought that would be the end of it, but no, she came back the next day and the day after that, each time acting like we'd never had the conversation about boundaries. One time, she even waited outside in her car, texting me nonstop until I finally caved and went out to talk to her. I told her again that I needed space, but it was like talking to a brick wall. She kept repeating the same promises. "We can move away. I'll make this right." The thing is, none of it felt genuine. She wasn't trying to fix the real problems, she was just desperate to hold on to what was left. And when the promises didn't work, she started throwing my own kindness back at me. "You're the one who told me you always take care of me," she said during one of our conversations. "How can you just walk away now?" That hit a nerve. Yes, I had said that before, back when things were good. But those promises were made in a completely different context, in a marriage built on trust. Trust that her daughter and her family had completely destroyed. She didn't stop there. She started talking about the prenup, saying it wasn't fair and that she deserved more. At first, I thought she was just venting, but then she mentioned that she'd spoken to a lawyer about contesting it. That was the breaking point for me. I told her I wasn't going to fight dirty, but I wasn't going to let her guilt me into anything either. "I'll stick to the prenup," I said, "and I'll be fair. But don't think for a second that you're entitled to more just because you don't like how things turned out." Hearing myself say that was strangely liberating. I started taking control of the situation. I'd already lost my peace of mind, my reputation, and my trust in the people I thought cared about me. I wasn't about to lose my financial stability too. After that conversation, she seemed to realize I wasn't going to cave, and her behavior took a darker turn. The texts became less about reconciliation and more about blame. "I can't believe you're doing this to me," she wrote in one message. "You're throwing away everything we built together because you can't handle a little family drama." Another text said, "I hope you know you're ruining not just my life, but your daughter's too. She'll have to drop out of school because of you." That one really pissed me off. I'd already told her I was paying for her daughter's last semester of tuition, even though I didn't know her anything at this point, but now she was trying to frame me as the villain, as if her daughter's actions had nothing to do with why we were here in the first place. The worst part was how calculated it all felt. One minute, she'd be apologizing and asking for another chance. The next, she'd be throwing every guilt trip in the book at me. It was like she was trying every tactic she could think of to manipulate me into coming back. And every time she tried, it made the possibility of going back more impossible. And the pressure didn't stop with her. Her family started ramping up their efforts too. I'd blocked most of them by this point, but they found other ways to reach me: emails, messages through mutual friends, even a few anonymous letters left at my parents' house. One of the letters said, "Real men don't abandon their families. You should be ashamed of yourself." Ashamed for what? For standing up for myself after being dragged through the mud? For not letting them control my life anymore? If anything, they're the ones who should be ashamed, for believing lies without question and doubling down when the truth came out. My parents have been great through all of this, but even they're starting to feel the strain. They've had to turn her away from the house more than once, and I can tell it's taking a toll on them. They've never been the type to get involved in drama, and now they're stuck in the middle of mine. At this point, I know one thing for sure: I can't let this define me. I've spent enough time letting their lies and manipulations weigh me down. I'm done second-guessing myself or wondering if I could have done something differently. I've made my decision, and I'm moving forward. It's not easy, especially since I experienced divorce before, but I know it's the right thing to do. I deserve peace, and I'm going to find it, even if that means leaving everything behind and starting over on my own terms. Now, let's just hope they leave me alone to find peace, but I have a feeling they won't back down. You're not leaving because you gave up, you're leaving because you finally realized your worth. That hit home because it's exactly how I've been feeling. I'm done waiting for things to change, it's time for me to take control. The divorce is in progress, and I filed a restraining order against her daughter. It wasn't an easy decision, but it was the right one. She crossed the line when she showed up at my parents' house unannounced, yelling about wanting to fix things. I couldn't risk her stirring up more chaos or spreading new lies. When she violated the restraining order and got arrested, it was surreal. I wasn't angry or upset, just tired. I realized I didn't have the energy to deal with her or anyone else dragging me back into that mess. As for my ex-wife, I've blocked her on everything except for legal communication. She's staying with a friend now, and while I've heard she's struggling, I don't let it bother me. I'm not responsible for her choices, and I'm not going to let her struggles weigh me down. She had every chance to stand by me, and she didn't. That's on her, not me. I've been focusing on rebuilding my reputation, which is no small feat. Some of the damage caused by her family's accusations is irreversible, but I'm doing what I can. I've started looking for a new job to make a clean break from the gossip and rumors that have followed me. It's frustrating to have to start over, but I know I can't rebuild my life while staying in the same environment where I've been dragged down. Do I regret what's happened? Not at all. I've learned a lot about myself and the kind of people I want in my life. I don't miss my ex or her daughter. I miss the peace of mind I used to have, but I know I'll get it back. I've started seeing a therapist, and that's been a huge help. It's been a relief to talk to someone who can help me process everything without judgment. They've made me realize that letting go isn't giving up, it's making space for better things. For now, my focus is on moving forward. I have my house, I'm looking for a new place to live, something far enough away to really start fresh. My parents have been incredible throughout this, but I need my own space, somewhere I can truly move on. I'm not bitter. I'm just ready to leave behind the lies, the drama, and the people who never had my back. This situation taught me what I deserve: respect, trust, and honesty. If those things aren't there, love isn't enough.